Hello and welcome to the Digital PR podcast. I'm Steve Baker and my co-host Lou is off doing the rather more important job of raising a tiny human. But the show must go on. We're in between seasons at the moment, but thought we'd give you all a little treat by bringing back our mini episodes throughout June and July. We'll be jumping into all of PR Land's hottest topics, as we always do, and hearing from members of the Propellernet PR team on everything from pitching to personality types. So get the kettle on, get those headphones charged, and make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of our episodes. Delighted to be joined by our brilliant digital PR manager, Alessandra, who will be talking to us about maintaining team culture in a remote-first world. Hello, Alessandra. Thanks for joining.
Hello, Stephen. Thanks so much for having me.
Hi. We're going to start easy and then get progressively harder with the questions.
Naturally.
The easy one. How did you land in the world of digital PR?
Like a lot of people, sort of half by chance. So I did an international business degree in Sussex and I moved down here for that. And there was a marketing module within that, which did intrigue me. But actually, I started off in property management and that wasn't for me after a couple of years. And I kind of fell into being a junior outreach specialist, which is much more SEO based, and slowly worked my way up to digital PR manager. So here we are.
Here we are, indeed. We should do another podcast at some point about your your brief property management career, but that's for another time because I want to hear more about that. For now, though, tell us a little bit about your role within the Propellernet digital PR team.
So almost all of us work on multiple accounts, a manageable amount, which is nice. So I work on a few accounts and I also lead on a couple of them too. So for example, I lead on sports shoes, Premier Inn, which means that I'm like the main client contact, although we all have contact, and kind of assure the smooth sailing the account, if you will. Yeah, and I've been here since 2020, the pandemic year, as I'm sure we all remember. But yeah, that's me.
I do remember that year very well. It was a joy for you to join us, but our time in the office was cut very short indeed before we were working from home quite a lot. So we're going to dig into that a little bit because so much has changed from when you joined. Could you describe, or how would you describe the working setup at Propellernet? So within our team, but also kind of the wider agency.
Yeah, I mean, it's constantly evolving and adapting, which I think is really great, depending on what the company employees want. But the general setup is that we work where we do our best work, which I think is the biggest thing, probably, because it means that people have complete autonomy over how often they come into the office, and there is an office space for people who need that, but also you can work at home, like I do, with my dogs surrounding me. So you've really got the option. And then the structure is very flat, which I've always really enjoyed. I think everyone enjoys that, really. So everyone gets stuck in on everything, really, excluding like the senior management who are just like assuring the smooth running of the company. For example, you're head of PR. I know that's no surprise to you, but you get involved, you muck in on every task, which is really nice. And I think everyone's values, no matter how junior or new you are, and ideas and opinions are engaged with, which I think is really cool and really unusual.
How unusual would you say it is? I mean, because for me, it is, and well, still is after 13 years at Propellernet. But yeah, like from previous places you've worked, do you think it is really unusual that that is the case?
Yeah, I do. I think a lot of companies talk a good chat, and then when you give them your idea, they go, yeah, and then you never hear about it ever again. So like, I think a lot of companies say they do that, but I've actually seen people have their suggestions taken on board and implemented, which is really great because I think with Propellernet, they walk the walk, they don't just talk the talk.
But I agree. I think we're a great company and we are unusual in some ways in the way we work, but we're not without our challenges, both in the team and the agency.
Mm.
Because obviously a lot has changed in the last, wow, has it been 4 years? It's been 4 years already since
Yeah.
the pandemic and working sort of practices changed a bit. What would you say are the main challenges you face, the team faces, from that kind of team culture perspective?
I think it's the usual challenges that a lot of companies face. So, for example, for new starters in particular, getting a sense of the culture, building their confidence and trust in being able to ask questions and point out when they need support or things are too overwhelming for them. That's a big challenge, and I think as well getting everyone sort of cozy with each other. I think especially in digital marketing, where you've got some techie people, there's a lot more introverts in general, you know. So I think a lot of people do need coaxing out of their shell a little bit, and a little bit of what I like to call organized fun, which I'm sure we'll get onto later.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is that is making people feel comfortable around each other to collaborate efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, I would agree. It was easier when we were in the office. Let's be honest about it. It was easier because
Mm.
you could have a quick chat when something popped into your head, rather than having to like Slack a voice note or a message and wait for that meeting and that kind of thing. So I totally agree with that. But you're in quite a unique position in that I had lots of time in the office at Propellernet with the PR team pre-pandemic, but you had like what, a matter of I think 3 months, something like that. So
Mm.
you kind of yeah, you experienced quite a sharp change. Was there a moment
Mm.
for you that you kind of realized that the team needed some more kind of structure in terms of like, what's the best way of putting it? Like culture focused processes to be put into place?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for Jimmy and Sam, the MDs, I spoke to both of them about this. Like, maintaining the culture was really important, despite growing quite rapidly as a company around that time, and moving to remote at first and now hybrid. Um, so yeah, I think there were definitely processes we needed to bring in, because people were joining and no one had really met them or spoken to them, and people didn't know who other people were in teams and things like that. Whereas it had always been a real like agency wide team feeling before, and it
Mhm.
started to feel a little bit more segmented. And I also think being on video calls is draining and awkward for some people, so you could see some people switching off and not getting as involved in the chit chat and the cultural side of things. So I think that's when it kind of dawned on us, we need to implement some things here.
Yeah, me and you both think share a love of like thinking about improving team culture, morale, like always thinking of ideas on what we can do. But you've done quite a lot in this area. What did you, what and how did you go about putting things into action on the PR team? What did you do and how did you do it?
We've got a lot of casual channels within, like, I think we have a few within the PR team. So for starters, we've got like a media monitoring channel where we share things that are relevant to PR, but also just things that we've seen online that are interesting to us. So we do get into little discussions on there.
Mhm.
I also brought in topic calls, which are kind of infamous. like
Tell us,
um
tell us about the topic calls. Tell us, we need more detail because I love them, but it was very much
oh
your
thanks.
idea. Like what do we do on those?
So I'll normally pick out a number of icebreaker questions, and people vote on which one they want to answer on Slack. And then we have half an hour where all work chat is strictly forbidden and you have to talk nonsense. And crucially, every person gets called on by me. So it's kind of an introvert's nightmare, but I feel like we know each other well enough as a team that everybody gets involved and gets to have their say. And it's gotten very heated at times, particularly around food-based topics like god tier snacks and deathbed meal, like what would be your deathbed meal. But it also, it's everyone's always smiling and laughing on them, and I've had really good feedback on them, because it brings people out of their shell in a way that's not just going to happen naturally at the beginning of a standard status call or team call. So yeah, I think they've been really good, and I've had feedback from the newer starters that it's helped them get to know people quicker and like break down those barriers to intimacy, do we say.
It was such a clever, like a lot of the best ideas, simple but clever and very effective because it's the kind of thing that we were chatting about in the office, sort of amidst work and meetings and all of that kind of stuff anyway. And it'd be nice to do that on a day to day, but we can't do it all the time. So like having that almost like allotted time with people just to have permission to switch off from work and just talk some silliness. Plus, I agree, it does teach you about others and who has dreadful taste in food and films and books and all that kind of stuff, and who has the best. We won't delve into that though. That's again maybe
That was so
another
loaded.
podcast. What else have we put into practice to help kind of team culture? Can you think of any other examples?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's tons. There's quite a lot of that have come from higher up in the company, and there's a lot that we've initiated ourselves. So, for example, Abby, the lovely Abby Bennett, had the idea of us doing PR presentations, and I'll never forgive her for that pun. But that's where we each throughout the year will share a presentation on something that interests us. So it can be PR based, but it also can be personal. So I think we had one of our most recent highlights was when Raquel, a Portuguese member of our team, took us through the weirdest things about Brits, and David Attenborough was slated within that, and I don't forgive her for that either.
I missed that one. I was away on holiday. I'm going to need to get a copy of that presentation because that is, I mean, potentially libelous.
I
We'll
know.
look into that. We'll look into that.
Yeah, so and we've also had other ones like Hannah took us through why having kids has helped her with client management, things like setting expectations and communicating clearly. But we also have other things. So coffee catch up is something that I believe Steph introduced. So you can see a lot of these are coming from the team members themselves, which is just every week we're prompted to have a 30-minute chat with someone, book in a call and just have a coffee and a natter, which is really nice because you get to talk to them one on one, especially if you don't work within the same client teams. And then additionally, we have our anchor days, which is more of a company wide structure. So that's, I mean, I think it's quite common jargon now, but we meet once a month as a team and we work together in like a remote setup. So either in our Brighton office or in London. And then afterwards, we do something silly. So recently we went and did loads of arcade games together. And I mean, certain someone might have taken the crown slightly over you, just saying, but
Yes, well done. Well done for winning that one. A rare win, but a win nonetheless.
oh,
I'm not bitter. I haven't
he
thought about it since.
he sounds fine, but his face is fuming, just for any of the audio listeners.
There's quite a lot that we do that you've just sort of talked through. What would you say has had the process or the thing that we've introduced that's kind of made the biggest impact?
People focus, probably the anchor days, I think, from a team perspective. And then as a wider agency, it would be the agency socials. So we meet once a quarter, I think it is, and you get to muck in with all the other teams. But just having that structured face to face time so that you haven't gone more than a few months without seeing people in the agency and actually like seeing them in 3D and chatting to them and doing something fun together. I think it's just really crucial to team bonding, and it makes people more comfortable with each other, and then they're more comfortable at work to give difficult feedback or to just work together collaboratively on something or to ask for help. I think it really smooths those and makes everyone's work life much more joyful.
Agreed. Agreed. 100%. I guess a large part that we talked a lot about the processes that we've put in place for the team that has grown since you started, quite significantly. We've done a lot of hiring and we get everyone involved in the sort of the hiring process. And we we always operate kind of, I guess you'd call it a personality focused hiring process, really keen on like team fit. In your experience, you've been involved in that process. How has that kind of been implemented in interviews and kind of how important would you say it is when building a remote first or sort of hybrid working team?
I mean, absolutely essential, because I think one of the biggest reasons Propellernet excels is because everybody it likes each other, wants
Mm.
to see each other succeed. And it sounds obvious, but it's true, And within the hiring process, I think it's always been really nice that, I mean, from the time I started and you've been head of with Lou, everyone gets involved in the interviews. You're not considered too junior to have your say, which I think is really important. And the interviews that person will meet several people from the team so that everyone or a lot of a decent amount of people can have their say. And I'd say cultural fit is almost the biggest thing. Obviously, you can teach PR, you can teach that skill set, but you can't teach personality. And for someone to have the shared values of the team, like the diligence and the trustworthiness and the honesty, that's what keeps us running smoothly because we work hybrid, because we have flexible hours, because we have unlimited holiday, because we have all these amazing perks. First of all, I think someone with those values deserves those perks, but also it wouldn't work if someone was, for lack of a better phrase, taking the piss. It wouldn't work if someone wasn't respecting those perks, and because of that, it means we get to have that autonomy. But I think if you start hiring people just based on how they are on paper, then they'd potentially be a little bit of a sore thumb if they didn't have those values and didn't fit into the team, because everyone in the team is always doing their best and always going that extra mile. So
Agree on all of that. I often wonder, because I've been at Propellernet a long time, I often wonder how it's done at other companies, but at Propellernet, it's pretty much always been done where the people that are going to be working with that person kind of get to meet them and offer an opinion on them, on like how they think they would fit and that kind of thing. And it just it's one of those things that just feels like, why wouldn't you do that if you don't do it? Because surely the other way of doing it is having a like a top down approach where it's just like one person. So it could just be me and Lou or something who just interview the person, say, oh, by the way, we're going to be working with Alessandra. Like it just doesn't that
nightmare.
like yeah, and it's like yeah, it just feels like intuitively right to do that. And as we've grown, I guess the challenge is we can't all meet that person. So like we can't have lots and lots of people on a Zoom call. It feels so intense. But I'm glad you think it's important and it helps with that kind of maintaining and preserving that autonomy and the perks we have, because I think you're right, those shared
Yeah,
values so crucial.
yeah.
Let's end with I'm really keen because you've covered a lot of ground and pretty much one of my favorite topics, team culture and sort of how to maintain and enhance it. But from you, Alessandra, what would be your, let's say, three top tips for other agency leaders, managers, heads of, etc., who feel that their remote teams are a bit disparate and would like to foster a better team culture? Not an
Mm.
easy one, but let's have three top tips from you. I'm going to hold you to that
I
as
don't
well.
I don't want to like toot my own trumpet, if that's the expression, because I'm not an agency leader. I
Mm,
am in my head sometimes, but yeah, but I'll still give my 2 cents, because like at Propellernet, everyone's ideas are valued. And it's funny what you say about the hiring process. Doesn't everyone give that personality focused approach? But I actually think a lot of people, it takes time and it takes that extra bit of effort. And I think people cut those corners and then they pay the price, which sounds ominous, but it's true. So one of the main things would be to get your team involved in that hiring process. It's great experience for them. It makes them feel more accountable to that person who's been hired, to training them, to making them a success because they've been part of it. And it makes them feel like they're part of building that team, no matter what level they're operating at or no matter how new they are. And I think it almost matters more when you work remotely, because in an office, you're kind of forced to collaborate, and you're forced to iron out your tensions. But remotely, you can let them lie under the surface and you can actively avoid working with that person, which is really detrimental. And those issues don't get ironed out in the same way. So if you have people who are naturally a personality match and the team have chosen that person, then it's more likely to have that synergy and to be harmonious. Whereas if some senior person who is just one person in the team thinks they're a good fit, then it's just not going to have quite the same team culture, I don't think. So that's the first one. The second one is to introduce some face-to-face structure. Again, sounds obvious, but you can do this less than you think you need to. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, people should go into the office 2 to 3 times a week. I think putting that level of structure on people might make them a bit resentful if they do prefer working from home or have gotten used to that, or their families have gotten used to that. But it can even be like a biannual thing. But having that face-to-face time where you see the wider team, where you feel the size of the agency in a room or in, I don't know, a park or whatever, is so crucial to actually remembering that you're part of a bigger whole and having those team bonding experiences, which is an expression I kind of love and loathe. That's number two. And thirdly is to get the team involved. Like, I think we've already covered the fact that most of the initiatives come from us in the team. But at the same time, the general management of the company have introduced lots of things. So we have like a well-being fund, we have subsidized group activities, which means that if a certain amount of Propellernetters get involved, like going to the cinema, for example, or playing laser tag, which I'm still trying to set up, then Propellernet will pay for us part of it, which is so nice, and it really encourages that out of work time together. But yeah, putting the onus on the employees to be part of it, to bring up their own initiatives, means they can create the culture they want, as opposed to, you hear about it all the time. Oh, we have perks of like pizza on Fridays, and everyone's like, well, we don't really want that. We
yeah.
want our own say. And I think here we even have like votes and polls on things. So there was a poll on whether we should go hybrid, for example, and I think every single person voted yes. And what was so nice about that was even people who didn't want it said, no, I don't want to be hybrid, but I don't mind if other people are. So, you know, it means that everyone's kind of agreed to it and had their say and their chance to raise any concerns. So things move a lot more smoothly and people are just more invested in their own culture.
Totally agree. I mean, you touched on something I think, well, lots, but that particularly, I would 100% agree, really, really important because you see some other companies where, you know, like job ads and things like that, where like free fruit is listed as a perk. And like, that's fine in lots of ways, but it's not really a perk and it's not going to foster better team culture. Whereas
Mm.
at Propellernet, you've given some examples, but I love that there's like a plethora of things you can dip into. Like some things aren't for me, or like I don't have the time for, but that's besides the point. You know, someone like,
Mm.
for example, there's a whole volunteering program that's been set up by people that were really into that. I think that's great. You know, I can dip into that at any point, but there's, as you said, like, you know, like subsidized gigs and trips to the cinema and the theater, and I love all that because it's you're right. It's come from a place. It's not just come from me or the MDs or someone going, "Oh, I think they'll like that." So that's
Mm.
going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
And it feels like almost every week there's a new, or every month, let's say, let's not go overboard, but every month there's like a new idea for an initiative, and
Mm.
some drop out and some add in. But I agree. I'm glad you feel that too, and that it's important because I absolutely love it. And one of the many reasons, but a key one that I've stayed at Propellernet for such a long time, I think. They treat people well and foster a lovely
They
culture. So,
do.
and you stuck to the rules. You gave us three. So thank you. Three top tips there. Alessandra, it's been a pleasure, as it always is. Thank you for joining us and talking to us about team culture in a remote first world. We'll be back with more mini episodes very soon.